God bless America. This country is the greatest place on earth, not just for its rich history or Walmart-style gas stations, but also because it's a place of second chances. Yes, Angel Studios risked their reputation on the incessant promotion of the very dumb Animal Farm, which took a parable about communism and turned it into a condemnation of capitalism, all for the kiddos. But here we are on America's 250th birthday with a truly great film in Young Washington. And when you have a movie review channel, you spend a lot of time wrecking big-budget Hollywood films because that industry quit telling stories and started preaching the woke gospel ages ago.
My panda, my choice, Mom.
But I'm here to report that God and Washington can make all things new. Granted, my positive attitude about this film may be because I've been reading a lot about Washington leading up to America's 250th, and it might also be because the film celebrates the home of Rocky, slap fighting, all-you-can-eat buffets, and TikTok influencers. I guess we owe the world an apology for that last one, but I will never apologize for being an American because I'm proud to be an American. God bless the USA. And now that we can stop celebrating a certain kind of disgusting pride, we can actually celebrate the right kind of pride, and this movie does it well. Young Washington, as the name suggests, follows the future first president of the United States as a young man working his way up from obscurity to one of the most iconic figures in world history. He has his eyes on a woman far beyond his means, but after all, America is about living large, and so, not to be denied, he goes looking for opportunities to go beyond his class and to seek the favor of this woman. So when he finds a group of Frenchmen squatting on our land, some things never change, by the way, especially if you look at Minneapolis these days.
It's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American, but it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice.
Washington confronts the Frenchmen, and he encourages them to get off the land. But the French refuse to budge, and he risks sparking an unintentional war, which, spoiler, does happen. Washington acts as a kind of reluctant hero as he marches into this conflict with the French, which leads to one of the most humiliating defeats of his life. Throughout many of these battles, we see some blood, but nowhere near the kind of brutality you might expect from a movie like this. And the language is pretty tame, too. We hear 2 uses of the B word and 3 of the D word, making this movie an easy PG-13 and one that you should easily take your kids to, because it shows Washington in all of his glory, but it also shows him in his defeats, which brings about one of the most powerful lessons of the film, which is if you don't learn anything in your losses, then you've lost twice. And when Washington recovers from his defeat by the French, he finally meets Andy Serkis, and it reminds us of one of Angel Studios' big losses and why they ever promoted the abomination known as Animal Farm. We may never know why, but it sure seems to be that Serkis needed a studio to promote his film, and Angel needed a big-named actor for their Washington film. And so we had Angel paying conservative influencers to promote the worst distortion of the classic book Animal Farm. Look, I know Christian studios are hard up for quality actors, and Kirk Cameron and Sorbo can't be in everything. Disappointed! But this was pretty unforgivable, and I hope Andy was cheap. But even if he wasn't, Young Washington is a noble attempt to try to redeem themselves, especially during America's 250th. And the end of the film shows this big payoff. Fresh off dysentery, Washington stumbles out of bed and finds his troops and Andy Serkis in trouble. Serkis's last dying breath is to stop retreating troops and to kick the French's butt, something the worldwide box office can get behind.
It's a well-known fact of life that nobody likes the French.
Washington rallies the troops, takes it to the front lines, and defeats the French, risking his life and becoming the hero of the French and Indian War. Chris Pratt said about this movie that it's the Braveheart of our time, and there certainly is moments that you feel that, but get my favorite movie out of your mouth. I don't mean to disparage the film. I love its unapologetic approach to faith and showcasing a story of divine providence. If you know anything about Washington or the making of this nation and you don't believe in divine providence, then you need to watch this film, or you need to get a heart and a brain. But this movie does fail when it comes to emotionally compelling characters and writing. The lead is certainly a great cast, and he is certainly as tall like Washington was, and he gives you kind of a Timothée Chalamet leading man vibe. But the story can drag out a bit, and the stakes aren't high enough. Let's face it, Braveheart was compelling because it did not flinch when it came to dark subject matter and hacking off limbs. Christian film studios still do flinch all the time, and you need that realism for the stakes to be raised. It's a real shame, too, because Hollywood isn't brave enough to tell stories about people like Washington because they're too busy deconstructing America, and Christian studios just aren't gritty enough yet. That's really my only criticism of this movie. To serve the underlying message of God's divine protection and providence, a message that is right up my alley, by the way, you need to see the unvarnished truth of brutality. This movie does a decent job. It just doesn't go far enough. And Old George deserves that kind of treatment because, by all accounts and everything I've read, young Washington doesn't nearly get close enough to George Washington. The guy had bullets whiz by him on the regular, and he marched his troops through some of the deadliest conditions imaginable. The French, in particular, were brutal and even put bounties on women and children that they paid out to natives for terrorizing colonists. We don't nearly get enough of that on the screen. However, based upon the initial box office numbers, we may see more of Washington and get exactly that, because in its opening weekend, young Washington came in second to Toy Story and beat Supergirl, the latter of which is experiencing the worst box office opening in DC history. So maybe we will get to see the crossing of the Delaware and maybe even see Washington deny the presidential appointment that was given to him after the Revolutionary War that would secure power for the rest of his life. He rejected that because he loved his nation more than his own selfish interest. That kind of bravery and selflessness does not come from human goodness. It comes from divine providence. And in this movie, we do see a good bit of that. And for that, I gladly recommend this movie to you and your family. Thanks for watching, and if you loved this video, then you'll love the next one YouTube chose for you that's on the screen right now. And if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to do that before you leave, but most importantly, go with God.